anatomy of the arm and even the elbow joint. So it's a little bit easier as you're already aware of the knowledge of the anatomy of the humerus bone and the scapula. Okay, so just recollect your memory about the humerus and the scapula so that you will be easy to understand about the attachments, the muscles of the arm. So how do you study any region in the body? I mean anatomy of the any region.
Attachment.
So just right from the skin and then go to fascia, then the deeper structures, right?
Okay.
So here the arm, this picture shows the cut section of the arm, the transverse section of the arm, to show you the deposition of the what is that? Arrangement of the fascia, the deep fascia I am talking about. Okay. So the deep fascia here in the arm is arranged in such a way that it divides the arm into two compartments, the anterior compartment and then the posterior compartment. So you already know the humerus. The upper end of the humerus, the lower end of the humerus shows two sharp margins, right?
Yes.
Lateral supracondylar ridge and then the medial supracondylar ridge. So the deep fascia here is arranged in such a way that it divides the arm into two compartments. This is what is the humerus bone. Okay. So this is the deep fascia. This pista colored one and even this purple colored. So that's how the deep fascia is arranged in the form of the medial and lateral intermuscular septas. What are these? Very important. They are known as the medial and lateral intermuscular septas, which are attached to the supracondylar ridges. Okay. Lateral intermuscular septum and the medial intermuscular septum. So dividing the muscles into anterior to this intermuscular septas, they are the anterior compartment, and posterior to that posterior compartment. So that these muscles of the arm are divided into two compartments. The muscles which are there in the anterior compartment, which do the flexion of the elbow, they are called the flexors. And then similarly the muscles which are posterior to these two septums, they are the posterior compartment which do the extension. So the muscles are grouped according to their actions. Anterior compartment muscles, posterior compartment. The vessels, the nerves, they are all totally different for the anterior compartment and then the posterior compartment. Is it clear?
Yes.
So how is the arm divided into two compartments? By the attachment of the deep fascia. Deep fascia, okay? So this is how the deep fascia is attached, enclosing the muscles. This fascia encloses the posterior compartment muscles, and this fascia covers the anterior compartment muscles. Am I clear?
Yes.
So the division of the arm into two compartments, anterior or the flexor, posterior or the extensor. Similarly in the forearm. So anterior or the flexor, posterior or the extensor. Similarly all parts, even in the leg also. Thigh, leg, they are also divided into anterior compartment, posterior compartment, medial compartment, lateral compartment, like that. By the fascia. So let's study the anterior compartment first. So the anterior compartment, as you all know, deep fascia, you have many structures. You have muscles, you have vessels and nerves. Okay? So first let's learn about the muscles which are present in the anterior compartment. You find three muscles. Okay? Number one is the coracobrachialis. Number two is the biceps brachii. And number three is the brachialis. These three muscles form the anterior compartment of the arm. Okay? So number one, the coracobrachialis, the name only indicates its attachment. What is the origin of the coracobrachialis? Very good. So it's the coracoid process. This is how is the coracoid process here. The tip of the coracoid process gives attachment to coracobrachialis with short head of biceps. And now insertion is to the medial surface of the middle of the humerus. So that is the attachment of the coracobrachialis. It's a very small muscle. Nothing much of functional importance, as it is a small muscle belly, so lesser action. So very important fact about this coracobrachialis, it's in the form of what is called the landmark muscle, we can say, because it is pierced by the musculocutaneous nerve. Which nerve? Musculocutaneous nerve, which is the nerve of the anterior compartment. This is the nerve of the anterior compartment. That means the muscles in the anterior compartment are supplied by the musculocutaneous nerve. So very important point here. Coracobrachialis is pierced by which nerve? Musculocutaneous nerve. So maybe from MCQ point of view, okay? So which is the nerve which pierces coracobrachialis? What is that? Musculocutaneous nerve. Or name the nerve which pierces coracobrachialis. What is that nerve? Musculocutaneous nerve. Right. So next, second muscle. So action mainly as it is crossing the shoulder joint, flexion and then adduction. Very limited action, okay? Because it is a very short muscle. Next is the biceps brachii, which is the name again. It is biceps, meaning two heads of origin. So biceps is a very important muscle. How do you show your strength? How do you show your power? You show your biceps. The bigger the biceps, more or the stronger, right? So you will usually very important muscle for the boys to show off their strength. The biceps, so having two heads of origin, you can see it here. So one head you already studied. What is that? Short head, along with the coracobrachialis from the tip of the coracoid process. Now coming to the long head, very important. Actually, I could not edit this slide here. Long head especially, the origin is very important because it takes origin from the supraglenoid tubercle. What is that? Supraglenoid tubercle, which is within the capsule of the shoulder joint. Within the capsule of the shoulder joint. So there are very few muscles in the body which are having intracapsular origin. What is that? Intracapsular origin. That means the muscle takes origin from a part of the bone, what is that? Which is within the capsule of a joint. So here the long head of the biceps originates from supraglenoid tubercle, which is within the capsule of the shoulder joint. Very important. So what is that called as? Intracapsular origin. Intracapsular origin of the long head of biceps. Okay, very important again from the examination point of view. So which head of the biceps is having intracapsular origin? Long head of the biceps. So you all know again one of the property of a synovial joint, all the intracapsular structures are covered by
capsule.
They are articular surfaces. Talking about intracapsular structures, you don't know the properties of a synovial joint. Basics are very important. All the intracapsular structures are covered by synovial membrane. Synovial membrane. So this long head of biceps tendon is covered by synovial membrane. As it is intracapsular. So it now comes out of the capsule at the intertubercular sulcus. You have this intertubercular sulcus, right? Beyond this, here you have the attachment of capsule, anatomical line. So it pierces the capsule at the intertubercular sulcus and lies within the intertubercular. This groove is found because of this tendon. Okay, dividing the big tubercle into lesser and smaller. Okay, here is the tendon like this, exactly like my finger. So it comes out of the capsule at the intertubercular sulcus. So until this point, it is covered by synovial membrane. Comes out and joins with the short head. You can see it here. This is the long head in the intertubercular sulcus, right? So comes out and then joins with the short head to form the muscle belly. Belly. So then this muscle belly after formation, then it's like a mouse, you know. It tapers, forming a tendon, biceps tendon, which crosses the elbow joint. And this tendon divides into two parts. You can observe it here. Dividing into two parts. The medial part, which flattens like a ribbon, that is called as bicipital aponeurosis. What is called as? Bicipital aponeurosis. What is aponeurosis? It's a flat tendon. A ribbon-like tendons are called as aponeurosis. Okay, this is the aponeurosis, which goes medially and then goes to the posterior border of the ulna. This is what is the posterior border, the hole, you can feel it. the bone. Okay, that is the posterior part of the ulna. It goes to the posterior part of the ulna. The remaining tendon, it goes, okay, and then inserted into the posterior surface of the radial tuberosity. Okay, yes. Okay, so this is the elbow joint. Okay, so now the tendon goes like this. Okay, this is what is the radial tuberosity in the radius. In the radius, this is the radius bone, this is the radial tuberosity. The tendon goes like this and twists. You know, twisting, anterior surface becomes lateral. It goes and twists and inserted into the posterior surface of the radial tuberosity. Posterior surface of the radial tuberosity. Radial tuberosity. Okay, clear? So what is the insertion of the biceps? Surface of the radial tuberosity of the radius. And the aponeurosis to the posterior border of the ulna. Posterior border of the ulna. That is the insertion of the biceps. Biceps brachii. Am I clear? Okay.
So it has two origin and one insertion?
Insertions I said again two. Bicipital aponeurosis and tendon. Okay. Aponeurosis to the posterior border and even it mixes with the deep fascia. Okay. And then tendon goes to the posterior surface of the radial tuberosity by twisting. Okay. So next muscle and the nerve supply, as already told you, the nerve of the anterior compartment is muscular cutaneous nerve. So this nerve also supplies biceps brachii. Okay. And the action. Coming to the action, it's very important. And many of the students always will be in a confusion. Whenever we ask for the action of the biceps, you say immediately flexion. No, it's not. It's not the flexion. It's not the flexion. It is the supination. It is the supination. As it goes attached to the posterior surface of the radius, like this, and then when it contracts, it does supination. So what is supination? This is pronation. This is supination. You can very well remember by a mnemonic. What is that? I guess I told you. King pronates. King always gives. Right? He always pronates. Whereas the beggar supinates. The king pronates, beggar supinates. You can remember like this. Always, because this is confusion actions. Pronation and supination. Sometimes you confuse pronation as supination and supination as pronation. If you remember this, king pronates, beggar supinates. So this is the supination. Okay. So like this. Okay. So that action is by biceps brachii. Biceps brachii. So what is the action of biceps?
Supination.
Supination. Never say flexion. It even do flexion of the supinated hand. Flexion of the supinated hand. So whenever you want to build your biceps, how do you do your dumbbells? How do you do your dumbbells? You just lift like this? No. How you have to build your biceps? You hold the dumbbell like this.
Yes.
You do like this. That is how you build your biceps. Don't do like this. Okay? So you should do supination and then flexion. Supination, flexion. So that builds up your biceps. Okay? So that is the supination and then the flexion. Okay? The chief action of biceps brachii is supination and then flexion of the supinated form. Okay? Yes. So next go to the other muscle, the last muscle of the anterior compartment, that is the brachialis. The brachialis. So this is the model. So this is what is the biceps. Okay. Deep to the biceps you have brachialis. Now I am taking out the biceps to show you the brachialis. This is what is the brachialis. Okay.
Musculocutaneous nerve.
Brachialis muscle. Brachialis muscle. So it originates from the anterior surface of the radius and even from anterior surface of the humerus, both from as well as the intermuscular septas, lateral and medial intermuscular septas also it arises. Okay, and then crosses the elbow joint again, and then inserted over to the ulnar tuberosity and the coronoid process of ulna.
So where is the brachials? Brachials. This is brachials.
This is brachial. This is biceps. Deep to the biceps. Okay. So where it inserted? It is inserted into. This is what is the ulna. Okay. This is the ulnar tuberosity and even the coronoid process. Okay, ulnar tuberosity and then the coronoid process. That is the insertion of brachialis. It is exactly crossing anterior to the elbow. So what is the action? Flexion. Which is the chief flexor? It is brachialis. Chief flexor of the elbow is brachialis. Okay, like even other muscles are also there. That's the brachioradialis. It also do the flexion. Am I clear?
Yes.
What is the action of brachialis? It is the flexion of the forearm at elbow joint. How do you explain an action? You should say first which part is moving and what joint it is moving. Flexion of the forearm at elbow joint. Flexion of the forearm at elbow joint. Okay. So now coming to its nerve supply. So here again one more important point here. This is the muscle in the arm which is supplied by two nerves. It's called a dual nerve supply. There are very few muscles in the body which are supplied by two nerves. So one of them is brachialis, supplied by the medial half by musculocutaneous as a nerve of the anterior compartment. Lateral half is by radial nerve. Lateral half by radial nerve. Am I clear?
Yes.
Yes. This is about the nerve supply. So two important points here. Nerve piercing the coracobrachialis and the nerve supply of the brachialis and the action of the biceps. 3 points keep in mind. Okay, what are they?
Nerve
The nerve piercing the
of coracobrachialis and nerve of brachialis.
musculocutaneous nerve piercing coracobrachialis. Okay, that's 1 point. Second point, action of the biceps. Number 3, intracapsular origin of long head of biceps. Number 3 or 4, the dual nerve supply of the brachialis. Okay, these 4-5 points you keep in mind. So next, go to the posterior compartment muscle. Yes.
You said the musculocutaneous nerve, also the radial nerve or cutaneous nerve for brachialis, and the action of biceps.
An intracapsular origin of the long head. This is a picture again showing the different muscles, brachialis, biceps and coracobrachialis. Okay. Let's go to the posterior compartments. Posterior compartment is almost capitalized by a very big muscle, the triceps. One small muscle is there, this one, which is very short. The main function of this muscle is to give stability to the elbow joint, like the short muscles around the shoulder. What are they? Rotator cuff. What are the muscles?
infraspinatus, supraspinatus, teres minor, subscapular.
I didn't get even one muscle also. Yeah? Teres minor.
لا لا ميجر لا مينر بس infraspinatus,
Supraspinatus.
infraspinatus, teres minor, subscapular.
So, okay, they are short muscles. Their main function is to stabilize the joint. Here also one muscle is a very small muscle. See, origin and insertion are very close to the joint. Okay, so it gives much stability to the joint rather than movement. Okay, the other muscle is the big muscle. That's the triceps. So name only indicates again 3 heads: long head, lateral head, medial head. 3 heads: long head, medial head, lateral head. So long head, which part of the scapula? Infraglenoid tubercle. You can see there. So long head from the infraglenoid tubercle. Okay.
Yes.
From the scapula, it runs downwards. And the lateral head from the lateral lip of the spiral groove, all both from the posterior surface. So there is a spiral groove in the humerus. If you consider this as humerus, the spiral groove. Okay, this groove is having a lateral lip and a medial lip, or upper lip and lower lip. So upper lip you have the origin of lateral head, lower lip you have the medial head, along with the posterior surface. Okay, got it? Long head, lateral you can say above the spiral groove, medial head below the spiral groove. Clear? Okay, very easy to remember. So these are 3 heads of triceps. 3 heads of triceps. They all fuse and form a big tendon which crosses the posterior surface of the elbow, and goes to the olecranon process of the ulna. The movement. This is what is the whole olecranon process. Okay, it goes to the olecranon process and inserted here, crossing the elbow joint, on the posterior side. Am I clear? So this is about the attachment of the triceps. So it is crossing posterior. So what should be the action? Okay. Flexion is bending. What is a flexion? Flexion is a bending movement. Extension is a straightening movement. So it is extension. No pronation. Extension. This is flexion. This is extension. So always remember, flexion movements are bending. Straightening movements are extension. Flexion, extension. Okay? So flexion, extension. Okay? Flexion, extension. Flexion by brachialis and biceps brachii. Okay? Extension by triceps. Okay? And nerve supply. Which nerve is there in the posterior compartment? Radial nerve. So radial nerve supplies the triceps. So one point here, as the triceps is having three heads, long head, medial head and lateral head. Try to follow my words carefully. The long head and part of the medial head. Which heads? Long head and part of the medial head receive innervation from the radial nerve when it is in the axilla. Did you understand this point? The long head and the medial head, they are supplied by radial nerve, I agree. But the radial nerve gives branches to these heads when the radial nerve is in the axilla. Where does it come from? It comes from posterior cord of brachial plexus. Where are the brachial plexus? In the axilla.
Yes.
So soon after its origin from the posterior cord, it gives two branches. One will supply the long head and one will supply the medial head. Whereas lateral head receives its innervation when the radial nerve is in the spiral groove. Why I am telling this point is, as I told you in the lab, humerus lab, that radial nerve is usually injured whenever there is fracture of the shaft of the humerus. Right? So when the shaft of the humerus is cut, as the nerve is there in the spiral groove, the radial nerve is injured. So giving rise to paralysis of lateral head, but not the long head and medial head. Because they get their nerve supply when the radial nerve is in the axilla. Did you understand this point? So consider this as radial nerve. Okay? So this is in axilla. This part is in axilla. This part is in spiral groove. Okay? This is the muscle. The long head and medial head, part of the medial head receives their nerve from the here. Okay? Nerve is here in the spiral groove, it gives lateral head. When the nerve is cut here, this is saved. That's why the medial head and long head are not paralyzed. Only the lateral head is paralyzed. Why? Because the lateral head gets its nerve when the nerve is in the spiral groove. A very important point clinically. So what are the branches of the radial nerve in the spiral groove? All the down muscles are also paralyzed, but not the long head and medial head. So which muscles are spared? Which muscles are spared when there is injury to the radial nerve in the spiral groove? Maybe an MCQ. Long head and the medial head of the triceps. Clear? Yes. Try to keep this point in mind.
So if there is any fracture on the humerus?
Yeah, the long head and medial head is spared. They are not paralyzed. But the other muscles are all paralyzed. Clear? All the muscles of the forearm and here, everything there. That is wrist drop will be there. So that is about the triceps. Its nerve supply and even action. The anconeus, as I said, it's a very small muscle doing little extension and much is its stability. So this is the action of triceps. See here, what is he doing? He's doing extension. He's doing extension, right? So now blood vessels. So what is the artery of the arm? It is the brachial artery. The arm is also called as brachium. So that's why the muscles are named as brachii muscles. Biceps brachii, triceps brachii, coracobrachialis. Okay, and similarly the artery is known as brachial artery. So what is the brachial artery? It is the continuation of same artery. See, only one artery is there from the brachiocephalic trunk, which runs through the root of the neck, the axilla, and then to the arm. But we are giving different names for the same artery. Here we call it as subclavian. When it comes to the axilla, we call it as axillary artery. And when it enters the arm, we call it as axillary artery, brachial artery. It is the same single vessel given different name in different regions. Okay. So from where exactly, which point we call it as brachial? From the outer border of the teres major. The teres major is here. Okay. From the outer border of the teres major, we call it as brachial. Above that, we call it as axillary. Clear? So from the outer border of the teres major, the brachial artery runs downwards, and very important here, throughout the course of the brachial artery, it is subcutaneous, below the skin and fascia, not over the muscles, not deep to the muscles. It is superficial. It is superficial. Why I am telling this point is because it is having some clinical importance. That's why I am telling this point. Okay, it runs medially and then comes to the front and then runs in front of the elbow. In front of the elbow, you can see it here. So first it is there in the medial side, coming to the anterior side, and then front of the elbow. Near the neck of the radius, this is the neck of the radius, it divides into two terminal branches. One is the radial artery and one is the ulnar artery. How it terminates?
Medial artery.
It terminates where? At the level of the neck of the radius. Neck of the radius into radial and ulnar artery. How is the termination of brachial artery? It terminates at the level of the neck of the radius in front of the elbow into radial and ulnar arteries. Clear? Okay. So what are the branches of the brachial artery here? Branches of the brachial artery in the arm. So it gives one very big branch which runs along with the radial nerve, which is this branch. Okay? Runs with the radial nerve in the spiral groove, that is the profunda brachii artery. What is that? Profunda brachii artery. Profunda means what? Bigger branch. Okay? So which runs along with the posterior, what is that? Radial nerve in the posterior compartment, supplying the structures in the posterior compartment. Clear? Which is the nerve of the posterior compartment? Radial nerve. Which is the artery of the posterior compartment? Profunda brachii artery, because it runs along with the radial nerve. Okay? So now other branches are collateral branches like superior collateral artery, inferior ulnar collateral artery, muscular branches to all the muscles of the anterior compartment, and nutrient artery. See, this is the nutrient artery, which will be supplying the humerus bone. Okay? So these are the branches of brachial artery. Branches of brachial artery in the arm. Which is the biggest branch? Profunda brachii artery. What are the other branches? Superior and inferior ulnar collateral artery, nutrient artery, muscular branches. Clear? We are laughing. See, it is a common sense. Brachial artery is there in the arm. What is the function of an artery? It should supply nutrition to the structures.
Yes.
What structures are there here? The muscles are there. The bone is there. So it supplies muscles, the muscular branches. It supplies the bone, the nutrient artery. We call the arteries which are supplying the bones, we call them as nutrient arteries. Okay? And the other branches are superior and inferior ulnar collateral arteries. Okay? And one artery, big artery, posterior, which goes to the posterior compartment, profunda brachii artery. Yes?
And the picture, near to axillary, the branch near to axillary, what's called the branch?
With this one?
Yes,
They are circumflex.
complex.
Circumflex, because they are surrounding. Circumflex humeral arteries. They are from third part of the axillary. Okay? Anterior circumflex and posterior circumflex humeral arteries around the surgical neck. Okay? That is the story about brachial artery. So these are the things that I said already. Now coming to the veins. So anywhere in the body, all the deep veins are named as, how they are named? Deep veins.
Fascia, deep fascia.
They are named as arteries, same as arteries, because the deep veins run along with the arteries. They are called as vena comitants. The veins running along with the brachial artery, brachial veins. The veins running along the radial artery, radial veins. Ulnar artery, ulnar veins, like that. Deep veins are not given different name. They are named as their arteries along which they are running. Okay, they are called as vena comitans. And the superficial veins are given different name. So you find two important superficial veins in the upper limb, whole of the upper limb. So one which runs along the lateral side, that is called as the cephalic vein. One which is along the medial side or the ulnar side, that is called as the basilic vein. What are the two veins? Cephalic and basilic. Cephalic and basilic. This is the cephalic vein. Okay? And this is the basilic vein. Okay? Cephalic vein and the basilic vein. Okay? So in front of the elbow, this cephalic vein and the basilic vein are joined by a very important vein that is called as median cubital vein. What is that vein? Median, not medial. Median cubital vein. Median cubital vein. Time being you remember, so I will tell the importance later. Okay? So this is, it's there in the your, it's called as the cubital fossa. We'll come to that. That is about the veins. What veins? Cephalic and basilic. Then coming to the nerves. So I said 4 nerves, right?
Yes.
4 nerves in the arm. Number 1, musculocutaneous. Musculocutaneous nerve which pierces your coracobrachialis, supplies all the muscles in the anterior compartment and continues down as lateral cutaneous nerve of the forearm. What? Lateral cutaneous nerve of the forearm. It continues down as lateral cutaneous nerve of the forearm. The other nerves are median nerve, ulnar nerve, radial nerve. What are they? Median, ulnar, radial. Okay? So this is the brachial artery, right?
Yes.
Brachial artery. So if you consider this as brachial artery, along the lateral side you have the median nerve. Along the medial side you have the ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve. They run along with the brachial artery up to the middle of the arm. Up to the middle of the arm. So middle of the arm, what happens? This median nerve crosses from lateral to medial side. See, the nerve is crossing here. See this? Anterior to the brachial artery. Which nerve crosses brachial artery? Median nerve. Median nerve crosses the brachial artery in the middle of the arm from lateral to medial side. Lateral to medial side. If this is the brachial artery, first this is on the lateral side and then it crosses anterior to the artery, comes to the medial side. Okay? Whereas ulnar nerve which is there on the medial side, at the middle of the arm, it pierces the intramuscular septa and goes to the posterior side and goes behind the medial epicondyle. Behind the medial epicondyle. I was telling you the humerus lap, ulnar nerve, and then goes to the forearm. Clear? And the radial nerve, first it is there in the anterior side and then goes to posterior side in the spiral groove. And then the lower part of the arm, it pierces the lateral intramuscular septum and comes to lie on the anterior side of the forearm. That is the elbow. So that is the story about 4 nerves. See here. So radial nerve coming only in anterior side in the lower part, whereas all this part it is posterior to the humerus. Only here it is coming anterior. So the median nerve, first it is there on the lateral side, it crossing the brachial artery, coming to the lateral side. Medial side of the brachial artery. Whereas ulnar nerve, see here, it is piercing the septum and goes to the posterior side and posterior to medial epicondyle. Clear? So first let me teach you about the median nerve. So this is the brachial artery, right? Lateral side, median nerve. Medial side, ulnar nerve. So they run up to the middle of the arm. Middle of the arm. Both they run. Okay? So median nerve, what happens? It crosses. It crosses and then comes to medial side. See here, in front of the elbow it is medial to the artery. So then the ulnar nerve pierces the septum here. See there, it is piercing. Pierces the septum, medial intermuscular septum, and goes posterior to medial epicondyle. posterior to medial epicondyle. Okay, and then goes to the forearm. Clear? And the radial nerve, everywhere it is posterior. That's why it is not shown. Okay, only it comes in the lower part of the arm, anterior side, by piercing the lateral intramuscular septum. So this is the story about these 4 nerves in the arm. So which is the nerve of the anterior compartment?
Anterior.
Musculocutaneous nerve. Posterior compartment?
Radial.
So this is again one more little story about the radial nerve. So here, so this is because it's having some clinical importance. I brought little stressed upon the radial nerve. This is the story about the radial nerve. First, it is here on the medial side, goes to the posterior side in the spiral groove, and then comes to the lower part to the anterior side. Okay.
That's one medial.
So at the level of the lateral epicondyle, it is divided into superficial and deep branches. Okay, it is dividing superficial branch and the deep branch. So now the radial nerve in the spiral groove. Radial nerve in the spiral groove where it is directly lying on the bone. Where it is directly lying on the bone. So wherever the nerves which are there directly on the bone, they tend to be injured by the fractures of the bones. So what fractures? As I said, fractures of the shaft of the humerus, giving rise to condition wrist drop, because all these muscles are paralyzed. Which muscles are spared? Long head and medial head of the triceps. Okay, other muscles are paralyzed, giving rise to condition called as wrist drop. So wrist drop is due to injury to the radial nerve in the spiral groove. Radial nerve in the spiral groove. And one more important, very interesting clinical condition. It is explained as Saturday night palsy. What is it called as? Saturday night palsy. So very name given, very common in especially the Western countries where Saturday. What is the Saturday? It's a weekend, right? What do you do with the weekend?
Drinking.
So here you are not exposed to, as it is banned here, so you may not be aware of this condition. But in Western countries, usually Saturday nights, they take alcohol heavily while sitting on the chair, okay, and even they will not be able to get up from the chair. So much they booze, and then sleep in the chair. Sleep in the chair with outstretched arm, resting their arm on the armchair of the right. Whole night they will be sleeping. So continuous compression of the radial nerve on the armchair.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens? Morning they get up, then the wrist is dropped. Because continuously the radial nerve is compressed between the bone and then the armchair. So the morning they will have wrist drops, the paralysis, because of the compression of the radial nerve in the spiral groove. That's why it is called as Saturday night palsy. Okay, so that is one condition. So now coming to one more, what is that? Cubital fossa. If you look at the front of the elbow, there is a depression. It's not. There is a fossa, right?
Yes.
Observe your forearm, your elbow, anterior side. There is a depression. That is called as cubital fossa. What is it called as? Cubital fossa. Cubital fossa. That is now it's a triangular fossa. How it is? It is a triangular fossa, exactly like this. It's a triangle. So a triangle will have 3 boundaries:
Yes.
a base, a medial boundary, and a lateral boundary. Clear?
Yes,
And an
sir.
apex. Say exactly like this. This is the cubital fossa. A medial boundary, a lateral boundary, and then a base. So medial boundary is formed by a muscle called as pronator teres. Pronator teres. What is that muscle? So as I said, common flexor origin is medial epicondyle. Common extensor origin is lateral epicondyle. So one of the flexors of the forearm is pronator teres. It arises from medial epicondyle, goes to the forearm. Okay, that forms the medial boundary. A lateral boundary, brachioradialis. Brachioradialis. And the apex is formed by this muscle go like this muscle comes. So they meet. Okay, they meet. So pronator teres, brachioradialis, they meet. That forms the apex. whereas base is formed by a line joining the medial and lateral epicondyle. Medial and lateral epicondyle. An imaginary line joining medial and lateral epicondyle will form the base. So these are the boundaries of the cubital fossa. I repeat, maybe an SEQ. Mention the boundaries and contents of the cubital fossa. So, medial boundary, prenata arteris, lateral boundary, brachioradialis, base, line joining medial and lateral epicondyles. Clear?
Line joint.
Line joining medial and lateral epicondyles of the humerus. Now, the roof. Roof, you have the fascia, deep fascia, and very important is, as I said, the bicipital aponeurosis. What is that? Bicipital aponeurosis. See this is the biceps muscle. Okay? So this is the bicipital aponeurosis. See it, as I said, it goes anterior to the elbow, crosses, and then goes to the posterior border of the ulna. So that is a very thin sheet of tendon of the biceps that is called as bicipital aponeurosis, which forms the roof. Okay? So and within the roof you have this vein. What is this vein? Which connects cephalic and basilic? Median cubital vein. Median cubital vein. It runs anterior to this aponeurosis. Very important point. Median cubital vein runs anterior to bicipital aponeurosis. That's why it is fixed. That's why it is fixed. Whenever you go to hospital with some illness, okay, you are sick sometimes. You go to hospital and the doctor says you need to have blood tests. So when you go to the lab, how do they draw the blood sample? Which vein they usually prefer? From where they draw the blood? They draw from this vein. That is the median cubital vein. Why this vein is preferred, not any other vein in the body? Why always they prefer this vein to draw the blood sample?
Superficial.
It is all the vein here. You can see the veins. They are more superficial everywhere. Why it is chosen? Because, as I said, this runs anterior to bicipital aponeurosis. This vein is fixed by bicipital aponeurosis. Very important point clinically. So when you want to take the syringe and prick the vein, the other veins, other parts of the body, they move because they are just below the skin. If you want to prick it, when you insert the needle, it will go laterally or median. So you will not be pricking the vein. You will be hurting the patient. Okay? Whereas this vein, if you just look the vein and then pierce it, it will not move because it is fixed by bicipital aponeurosis, and it's a big vein where you can draw more blood. Okay? So that's why median cubital vein is preferred. Why medial cubital vein is preferred to draw the blood samples? Because it is fixed by the bicipital aponeurosis. Very important point clinically. Okay? So that is the median cubital vein and its clinical importance. So now coming to the floor. Floor, we talked about the roof. How about the floor? Floor is formed by the brachialis muscle tendon. Brachialis muscle tendon. Brachialis. Okay? Now what are the contents? Contents. Yes? I told you so many the pass from arm to forearm. What is there? It is there in the roof. Okay, you can consider as it is there in the roof. Brachial